there have been rumors circulating for the past few weeks that Canelo Alvarez might be facing Billy Joe Saunders sometime later on this year. And Canelo came out in the past couple of days and spoke to ESPN and actually confirmed this to be true, that he's at least, or his team are at least planning a possible fight with Billy Joe Saunders later on this year, probably in December. There's also rumors that Billy Joe Saunders' next defense, or his first defense of his WBO middleweight title, will be on the Canelo-Liam Smith undercard. And if that happens, then it would seem very, very likely that Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders will happen later on this year. Now, obviously, Canelo's got to get past Liam Smith, so I'm going to quote Canelo directly here. He says, "It's what we've thought about, but let's see what happens. First things first. I always like to take care of the challenges in front of me first and then look at what else lies ahead. But this is what is being planned." And he also talks about the fact that this potential fight with Billy Joe Saunders would not be pay-per-view, but it would be on regular HBO. He says, yes, that's the plan. Make the fight on broadcast TV. That is the plan we have. But first we have this fight and then we'll look at the others, Canelo said. So that's an interesting move too. Canelo potentially stepping back up to middleweight to fight at 160 pounds against Billy Joe Saunders, but having it on network, well, not on regular HBO at least, not on pay-per-view HBO. What's the thinking behind that? Are Canelo's pay-per-view numbers dropping? From what I've read, certain places, they appear to be. So maybe this is a way of bolstering Canelo's pay-per-view numbers up higher by giving the people something for free. Him against Billy Joe Saunders. Personally, I think Billy Joe Saunders is a dangerous fight for Canelo. Billy Joe Saunders is probably the slickest guy at 160 pounds around right now. He's very slick, a very good boxer. He's not a massive puncher, but he's got enough power to get your respect. You saw him drop Andy Lee and hurt Andy Lee very badly in their fight. So if he catches you right, because of his speed and timing, he can catch you by surprise and hurt you. I think he's very unlikely to hurt Canelo, and Canelo obviously has fought other slick fighters before. As slick as Billy Joe is, he's certainly not as slick as Erislandy Lara. I would say he's slicker than Austin Trout, though, in my opinion, but not as slick as Erislandy Lara. Well, you might debate the Trout one. That's cool if you want to disagree with that, but I personally think Billy Joe's a bit slicker than Trout, not as slick as Lara, but he's bigger than both of those guys, naturally. And I would say he probably hits harder than those guys too. So, yeah, going to be interesting, people, if that fight does go ahead. Abel Sanchez, in an interview I saw recently, said that he wouldn't be surprised if Billy Joe actually beats Canelo. And I wouldn't be surprised either. However, the big thing here is Canelo apparently willing to step up to 160 pounds. That's what people are saying. Canelo is actually going to fight the fight at 160. There won't be no catchweight business for Billy Joe's WBO world title. And that's obviously going to make a mockery of Canelo's position on fighting Triple G. As if it wasn't a mockery already. We all know that he's running for dear life from Triple G. So saying that he needs to build himself up to a middleweight. I mean, the guy is already a light heavyweight / small cruiserweight. And he's talking about he needs to build himself up to 160. This guy hasn't been 160 in a boxing ring probably since he was a teenager. On fight nights, this guy's weighing well north of 160, usually over 170. And in some instances, I'm very, very sure that he's weighed as high as 180, maybe even higher than that. So for him to now say, okay, I can fight Billy Joe at 160. Why couldn't you fight Triple G at 160 this year? You're willing to do it against Billy Joe? You know, so it's just going to make himself look even worse. He would have been better off holding out if he wants to try and save face and at least give, any type of credibility to his claims that he's not yet a middleweight. He would have at least held out fighting Billy Joe until 2017 and then fought Golovkin later on in the year in 2017. But anyway, all of that may be academic if he don't get past Liam Smith first. And imagine if he gets past Liam Smith, then loses to Billy Joe Saunders this year. Imagine what position he'd be in then. Maybe it would make it more likely that he would take the Golovkin fight. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. It's very difficult to win a decision over Canelo Alvarez, as I've mentioned before. He is the darling of the WBC and to some degree the boxing establishment in the United States as a whole. So it's very difficult to get a decision over him. Maybe only a Mayweather or a Pacquiao at this point could get a decision over Canelo. Maybe only those guys are powerful enough in boxing to not get totally robbed, because they tried to rob Mayweather on one of the scorecards. So, the other two judges saw sense. Maybe only Pacquiao also could win a decision over Canelo on the judges' cards. But apart from that, you would have to beat Canelo black and blue, in my opinion. Drop him several times to get a decision over him. Billy Joe Saunders is unlikely to do that. However, we don't know where the Billy Joe Saunders Canelo fight would take place. I would be 99% sure, not certain. I should have said we don't know for certain, but I'll be 99% sure that Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders will be taking place in the United States in the venue of Canelo's choosing, basically. But would there be a chance, maybe, of it happening in the UK? Very, very doubtful. If it did, then you would give Billy Joe Saunders more of a chance of actually getting a fair decision. But provisionally, just looking at the fight as a potential for December later on this year, if both guys get past their next fights, I would imagine it's going to be a points victory for Canelo. Him stopping Billy Joe? I don't think so. I think Billy Joe's very tough. He's got a good chin. I'm not saying Canelo can't hurt him, but I think he's slick enough and wily enough and savvy enough and tough enough to get through a 12-round fight and possibly outbox Canelo, but get robbed on the cards. Anyway, this is not a prediction video. I'll make a prediction video if this fight does get signed and goes ahead. So drop your comments in the comment section below, people. What do you think about this potential matchup? And what do you think about everything I talked about in this video? It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.